Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this week's live trading session and trade review session. So, as always, if you have any questions, please put those through on your screens, and I'll do my best to answer those as we go through today. So, as you'll all be aware, I had a very tight stop on my trades this morning, or on my overall position, as opposed to individual trades, and that stop triggered reasonably early, before 9 o'clock this morning. So I just want to have a look at the trades for this week first today. I know that the Dow will be opening up in 8 or 9 minutes or so, and I do have a trade, a limited bid, that's in the market at the moment at 33,548, I think it is. So I'll continue to monitor that, but I just wanted to focus a little bit on the trades from this morning. So as you can see, I had 5 trades on at the time of the stop. One of those had been put on fairly recently. So there were a couple of Dow trades, a gold trade, and 2 DAX trades. So 5 trades in total. And as I said, the stop triggered, and you can see the result for today is negative 242 pips. You look at where the markets currently are, and we're 20 or 30 pips above the highest level that I traded DAX. We're fairly close to the highest level that I traded in the Dow, and we are about 60 pips, or have been at least 60 pips better in the gold trade. So very, very easily, if that stop had just been a little bit wider, rather than that showing a negative 242 today, it would have been a positive 242, and another week in the green. So I just want to give a bit of an explanation around why I did what I did, and what I was thinking. What I'd like to start by saying is that January and February have been very profitable, and we've seen a really good period of trading and a really good period of profitability. And whether you're having a winning streak or a losing streak, those streaks will always come to an end. And Monday, and I think Friday was a losing day last week. In fact, I know it was. So when you look at Monday and Tuesday this week, there were probably nearly 800 pips worth of losses over those 2 days. Getting caught short on the Dow and the DAX as it rallied on the Monday, and then a similar sort of story on Tuesday when I was short both of those markets again. And the market rallied quite aggressively. So as just in the context of what's been happening more recently, as opposed to what's been happening in January and February, 3 days of back-to-back losses, 800 pips worth of losses on Monday and Tuesday of this week. It was starting to look a little bit negative, and taking away some of that positivity that had been there. I think sometimes when you're doing too well, as I've done in January and February, sometimes it's quite easy to run away with yourself a little bit, and maybe take more risk. And I think there was an element of that coming into the trading as well, certainly on Monday and Tuesday of this week. So it was a really good turnaround Wednesday and Thursday, very slightly in profit by the close of yesterday, and by slight I mean very, very slight. But it was a significant turnaround on both of those days, and in balance, break even for the week would have been, in my opinion, an exceptional result based on how Monday and Tuesday had gone. So I decided to tighten up the stop. Break even, or increasing the loss significantly on the Friday wasn't something that I wanted to do, so I kept the top stop really, really tight, and unfortunately, as you now know, stopped out on those trades this morning, and it could have been very, very different. I think it was pretty much on the extent of the movement in the indices, Gold did go a little bit lower, and we'll look at those markets in a little bit more detail after we've looked at these trades around the opening bell. We've got about 3.5 or 4 minutes left to go, slightly over 4 minutes left to go to the opening bell. So in general terms, it's a negative week as it stands at the moment. I do have one limit bid in there that I'm hoping will get hit during this session. Otherwise I will trade around the opening bell. But as it stands at the moment, it looks as if it will be a negative week, but thankfully not a significantly negative number, and as I've already said, in the context of how January and February have gone so far, not something that I'm too greatly worried about at this time. Wellies or the profits that we've had month to date are very able to absorb a couple of hundred pips worth of loss at this particular point. So I don't think there's anything else to say about the trading this week. Clearly very wrong Monday and Tuesday, much better off Wednesday and Thursday, and then today a stop that was probably too tight would be my summation of what we've seen today, and I have to accept full responsibility for that. I know that a number of you stayed in the trade because I've spoken to you and have turned profits on those trades, but unfortunately that wasn't the outcome for me. So I'll close these down now. If you do have more questions about any of the individual trades or my approach to the markets this week, then please do put those up on your screens and I'll respond to you later on. So just closing that down, and the screens are coming back up. So gold still, and gold has been up to 1830 or very close. We're 1830 and a half on that jump that we can see in that market. The Dow continues to trade just below 33,600. My first trade this morning was at 33,601. The DAX is significantly higher than I traded it this morning. And the currencies, both sterling and the euro, are a little bit stronger against the US dollar. So with about 90 seconds or thereabouts to go to the opening bell, just going to focus here on the Dow. So bring that up with a minute market on it. So just take that down to a 1 minute chart so we can see in a little bit more detail what's going on here. Just a little bit of a tick off as we're coming towards or closer to that opening bell. I'm going to speak about the markets in a little bit more detail after we hopefully trade during this session. So my limit bid is about 36 pips below the market as I'm currently talking. Hopefully we'll get a trigger. There is a little bit, the Dow finished very weak yesterday, probably closing at or very close to its lowest level. A bit of weakness coming into the market, a bit of negativity. Not really any data to speak about today. We don't really, I'm pretty sure that there's no Fed officials speaking. And it was a combination of those two that brought the weakness into the market yesterday. So slightly under 30 seconds or so to go now to the opening bell. So my limit order's still a bit away from where we are, about 40 pips away from where we are at the moment. But it'll just be interesting to see what we get on the open. Obviously the sellers are outweighing the buyers on the basis of where we closed yesterday. And we'll just see where that opens. Very close to the open now, still ticking down just a touch, waiting for that market to open, and we're still ticking down very slightly, 26 pips or so away from my limit bid, and there we go, we're open. And the market is getting close to my limit bid. And it's not far off of a level that I traded first thing this morning. Might need to be a little bit more aggressive just to get into this market. Very close there to triggering I think we probably missed by 1 or 2 pips. I know that I've written a few times during this week that we've missed by a fraction. I think you saw it for yourself there. It traded down. I thought I saw a 49 bid, may have even gone a little bit lower than that, but didn't quite get the trigger, and now we're 25 pips or so above. So some of you may have got triggered on that trade. If you're using different platforms, unfortunately on Vantage I didn't take a trigger, and I'm not in the trade yet, so I'll leave the trade there for the time being. Just speak a little bit about as we're pushing back closer to that particular point. So yeah, look, I'm triggered now, or I'm fairly sure that I'm triggered at this stage. Yeah, there you go. Definitely triggered now. The market's still coming off a little bit, so I'll continue to watch that. Obviously looking for a bid to come back into this market, and hopefully push us a little bit higher. Had a lot of success over the month of January and February, trading in the range between 33,750 and 34,250. Yesterday's close did see a break of those levels. We obviously closed around the 33,620, 650 level. I am looking, whilst it is a breakout of sorts, isn't a breakout that would worry me too greatly in terms of substantially breaking those levels and moving to different levels that we're going to trade at. I think the chances are that we'll push back towards that 33,750 level, or at least that's what I'm expecting today, and possibly even move a little bit higher from there. There is definitely buy-in interest at these levels of the market. There are investors coming back in, trying to pick up stocks a little bit cheaply, and take advantage of these movements that we've seen to the downside. So we are in that trade at the moment. It is there was about 25 pips worth of profit there. I've just taken profit. Sorry, no, I haven't. I thought I had. So I'm just going to take profit. It's jumping around a lot. I think I'm missing the prices here, unfortunately. So if we go back up there, as we have done. So I've just closed that trade, taken about 25, 26 pips worth of profit out of that trade on the open there. And we're still looking to push a little bit higher. I'm definitely a buyer of these markets at these levels. As you'll know from yesterday, would have been a buyer around that 750 level. I think one of the things yesterday, and the lesson that maybe for those of you who were trading longer into the day, is that once you've achieved the targets that you want to achieve, sometimes it's better to step away from the market. Certainly for me, the time of the day that I prefer to trade is very much during the early part of the session, the trading session in the US. The longer that you stay into that session, it gets very volatile around the closing bell in New York, but the longer that you trade within that session, the more dramatic the moves become, and the more likelihood is that you're going to take some damage during those periods. So the Dow at the moment has just pushed back up above the level that I traded this morning, 33,601. Just reaffirming how tight that stop was this morning and how profitable those trades would be now. So the Dow's trading around, or just under 33,620. The DAX has popped up to 15,460, and gold is trading around 1827.5 at the moment. So I'll come back in to look at each of those markets very, very briefly in the last 5 minutes or so. Just as a general overview, and you will have seen this from my market comments this morning, there have been 2 significantly negative pieces of inflation data this week. A couple of Fed officials yesterday who were very vociferous about possible 50 basis point increases from this point. Also about the target rate being a little bit higher. I think also there were some comments around getting to the target rate as quickly as possible in order to quell inflation. And probably the last comment was about how long this fight is going to go on for. So a lot of negatives coming into the market, and I think the market over time has started to absorb some of that, understands that, knows that the rates are going to be higher for longer, and has accommodated that into the way that it's trading at this time. So that's just a general outlook of where things are. Just going around the different markets, I mean, gold traded down to about, let me just bring a different chart up here. So I'm going to swap this to a 5-minute chart. So we traded down to about 18.19 early this morning, back up to about 18.26. I think gold is very cheap at these levels. You look at a daily chart and you can see that, let me go to a 4-hourly chart first. You can see that certainly on the 4-hourly chart we're going back to levels that we've not seen since early January. On that daily chart, you can say that there have been some areas of resistance that we could be seeing some support coming in around here at these levels, and again over here going back to June of 2022. So resistance here, possible resistance and support as we hit these levels, and maybe a repeat of that as we're testing these levels that we rallied up from back in late December, early January. So as we get down and we trade towards that 1820 level, definitely a buyer of gold at those levels. And we've seen a nice pop up today that you would have been able to take advantage of as well. Just with, not so much with the DAX, but with the Dow, I think the trading very heavily within that 750, 34,250 level. I would like to see us get back into that level. As you'll have all known over the last number of weeks and months, range trading certainly suits me better. I do think, as I've mentioned already, that there are opportunities to buy on these falls or on these dips. There are a lot of buyers who come out in the US and are looking to accumulate positions at this time. So I'm certainly a buyer in the Dow at these levels. Is there anything on the charts that really supports that? I mean, this is only a 1-minute chart. If we look at the dailies, there's a lot of congestion in this area, and you can see the range that has been so beneficial to me and hopefully to you over the last month or so. There has been a drop there down to 32,690. A little bit higher than that. So a drop down there to about 32,800. So that would be the next phase of this market. If you see, you block out this particular area, if we do move to the downside, and that would hopefully be the next range that we're going to trade in for some time. Ideally for me is we push back up to these levels and continue to trade in this range between here and here. There will be a breakout at some point. Thankfully, over the last number of weeks, the breakouts that there have been, I think there was one to the downside. There's possibly been one or two to the upside, and all of those have proven to be false. So what I'd like to see us back trading within that range that you can see, even coming back to the period here, significant trading within this particular period. So unfortunately I've run out of time there. Just referring back to those markets quickly, not really seeing any great movement. Gold has come off a couple of ticks. Definitely interested in buying the Dow if we see a movement to the downside. I'll only be taking one trade at a time this afternoon. If there's a losing trade, I'll call it a day. Thank you very much for joining me, and I will speak to you all shortly on Telegram.